Welcome back to the channel. And unfortunately, week 5 was not much better than week 4 or even the past couple of weeks. We are now on a 4-game losing streak. And this one I think was even more disappointing given the fact that it was the Dolphins. The Dolphins have looked horrendous without Tua, which makes sense, starting quarterbacks out, but they have not looked good. And so you come in this game, and I thought this was a very winnable game for New England at home, playing a team with a pretty lackluster offense. If you even look at last week, the Titans just manhandled this Dolphins team. And in this game, this is just a really weird game to me because, the score wasn't anything crazy. It finishes 15-10. It seems like it's a very defensive battle. But this is one of those games where New England had every reason to win this game and somehow found a way to lose it. And for, people that have watched my analysis of the first couple games for New England, the formula for this team to win, the only way this team can win, is when they have a good running game and they have the lead early. They had all of those things in this game. And it's one of those things because, yes, they kind of played mistake-free football, right? We didn't turn the ball over in this game, which is great, right? Mistake-free football while having a really good running game today usually is a remedy success for New England. It's how we were able to win in week 1 and compete in week 2. But this game was just embarrassing. Jacoby Brissett, at the very end of the game, looking at his stats now, 160 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. And that number to me is very misleading because if you think about outside like the last drive or two where they were forced to pass the football to try and, get a touchdown, New England had like under 100 passing yards, I think, going into the fourth quarter. This team could not pass the ball whatsoever. We just cannot get the ball down the field whatsoever at all. We have no real receiving threats. Demario Douglas was our leader with 6 receptions, 59 yards. Again, Demario Douglas has shown signs that he is a good slot receiver, a good receiver, underneath and playing like the kind of role of like a Jacoby Myers, for instance, or the classic slot receiver for New England. But outside of that, there's just nobody here. I mean, Hunter Henry, he's usually been a good threat in the red zone especially, but he was kind of quiet in this game. Kayshon Boutte, however you say his name, he had 2 catches in this game. And I know, right, a lot of Patriots fans might be complaining. We had the possible touchdown, late in the game, but apparently I didn't know this was a rule that you just getting down your toe does not count as having both feet in bounds in the end zone, which negated a touchdown. I will say, that touchdown at the end of the game could have been much easier given a better throw from Brissett. And one thing I want to talk about in this game before we go to the defense, because the defense had a lot of issues as well, a lot of this is, yes, New England is just not good on offense. The offensive line is terrible in, pass protection and, holding calls. Penalties kill drives for New England. A lot of the things that in this game hurt them really came off of a lot of those self-inflicted things. New England had 12 penalties in this game, which resulted in 105 yards. That just cannot happen. And a lot of those penalties, destroyed this team offensively. Because think about what I talked about this offense. It has to play into a lot of structure. It has to be very safe and disciplined football. If you get behind the sticks, this team is screwed. They have no way of passing down the field to convert those, first downs. And so you take a look at this game and you go, that's part of it, right? The offensive line holding calls all throughout the game, getting beat consistently. You have that part of it. The other part of it is we don't have the best talent in the wide receiving room to go down the field and stretch the field. So that's another part of it. And then you get to Jacoby Brissett, who himself just is not a good quarterback. And I know he's been kind of a backup. He's been fringe, low-tier starter most of his career, but he just, in this game, to me, was not good at all. He missed a lot of throws that, could have been hit. He is somebody that, to me, was pretty poor in this game, right? 34 times he dropped back. Only 18 of those were completed for 160 yards, and I talked about it. A lot of that was really in the fourth quarter. He wasn't good enough in this game, and so I think the question really starts creeping up on you. And I know that the Patriots probably want to play Drake May at some point of this season. When do you start him? Because Jacoby Brissett is just, it's hard to watch Brissett play. I got to be honest. He's just not that great. And the problem is if you're New England and you're sitting here waiting for a game to start Drake May against maybe an opponent with not so great of a defense, it's going to be a tough stretch, right? Like, think about this going forward. We are at home to Houston. We are at home to Jacksonville. We're at home to the Jets. So we have a 3-game home stretch here. And I'd say two of those defenses are pretty good in Houston and the Jets. The Jags have been quite exposed, as we saw from the Colts this week. You then have, at Tennessee, at Chicago. Both of those teams have been able to play defense pretty well this year, not easy teams at all. I think a great stretch if you did want to try and get, Drake May some reps. You have the Rams. They haven't been good on defense this year. You've got the Dolphins, who, outside of really this game against New England, haven't been great. The Colts, they haven't been great. Arizona, I think, has been better than expected, but they also have been kind of, I say, middle around the pack, not like an elite defense or anything. And then you finish out the last three games. You have the Bills twice, and then the Chargers in there. So tough defenses at the end of the game, at the end of the year as well. But that's kind of the main thing. I think if you're looking at it from the offensive point of view, like, when do we actually start, Drake May? And I think that's the question that's really got to be answered. And, so transitioning to the defensive side of the ball, this is the part of it that I think I'm disappointed about with, because, yes, the defense did do a good job in terms of getting turnovers, right? We had a total of 2 turnovers in this game. A fumble that was like basically a mishap on special teams, and then we also picked off Tyler Huntley once. And what I'm going to say right away, the fact that we gave up almost 200 yards of rushing in this game is unacceptable. For a New England defense that is shown to be good at stopping the run, at least in the first couple weeks of the season, and then even going back to last year, that's unacceptable. The Dolphins had more time of possession than the Patriots did, even though we had a good, running game today. The fact that the penalties really killed our offense, you saw it in this. And I think the defense just throughout the game really got worn down because the offense wasn't doing anything. And you really saw it on the last touchdown drive for the Miami Dolphins. They were able to run all over New England. We were just completely gassed really in that last, quarter. And that's part of it, right? So the run defense in this game was atrocious, averaging 4.7 a carry, really bad on that side of it. Now, the one positive I will say, I think Christian Gonzalez played a pretty good game with the, interception that he had in this game. And for the most part, we did contain the Dolphins' passing offense. Under 200 yards passing, I think, is a pretty good game. Limiting Tyreek Hill probably up there as one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And Tua's out there, basically the best wide receiver out there, besides maybe Justin Jefferson in that territory. 6 for 69, not anything crazy. That's a very successful day, against this passing offense. I will say, Jonnu Smith, it seems like we could not cover him today. A lot of mishaps, I think, in the secondary in terms of trying to guard the tight end, Jonnu Smith, ex-Patriot. Jalen Waddle was, 446. Again, if I gave you these numbers and I said, oh, yeah, Tyreek Hill only had 69 yards and Jalen Waddle only had 46, you'd be saying that the Patriots should have dominated this game, that they had no offense. Just they were able to run the ball. 41 rushes on our defense for 193. That is unacceptable when you're going against a quarterback that has had struggles passing the ball. I mean, you look at last week with the Titans, and I get it, Tyler Huntley didn't have as much prep time going into that game, but New England, I would have thought this defense is better than the Titans, and that was not the case today. And so you look at this game from New England, and it was just, how did we let this game fall apart? Given the special teams mishaps that were happening by the Dolphins, given all these things going against the Dolphins, right? Like, the fact that we were even leading this game late into the fourth quarter is actually insane, because the Dolphins had so many chances to get points, and they were having mishap after mishap after mishap. And so you walk out of this game and you go, if we can't beat the Dolphins when they have Tyler Huntley in, they have all these mistakes in, who can we beat? And that's one of the things that I talked about going into this season that I was really worried about. I knew the offense was not going to be good this year. And for the most part, what I was hoping from this offense is that you'd play mistake-free football, lean on the running game, and try to compete. And they've done that somewhat to a degree. It just hasn't been good enough. The defense, to me, is kind of where I worry about. The fact that we played kind of a bend, don't break defense today, and that just didn't get the job done. And now you go into a stretch where you've got a couple games in a row where, again, I think at home to the Texans, I think they have no chance in that game. The Jaguars, maybe the Jags have looked up and down at times. The Jets have not looked good outside of really that game against New England. So who knows, right? And so I think the future is looking quite dark. We'll see when we get Drake May in, because right now, if you're a Patriots fan, I think the only thing you have looking forward to in this season is when we do get to see Drake May's debut, see how he is as a passer. And for me personally, I'm not looking to see Drake May turn around the team and start winning a bunch of games this year. I'm hoping to see that he grows as a quarterback this season and shows some good signs, pocket presence, being able to be accurate down the field or in short throws, being able to read defenses, his intelligence. We'll see when they elect to try and start Drake May, but I would assume there's going to be a conversation, right? This team has not scored more than 13 points in the last 3 games. We've only scored in the 20s once, and that was in week 2 in a 23-20 loss to Seattle. At some point, you got to start asking questions, right? You can't win NFL games scoring less than 20 points consistently each week. And I'd say it's almost consistently less than 10 points, as we have scored 10 points and then 3 points in week 5 and week 3. So we'll see where this team goes from here. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Very disappointing start to the NFL season for a New England Patriot fan.